Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. It is a special night tonight. Welcome to my Tuesday night series, Mindset Coach Night. Every Tuesday coming to you live at 6:30, bringing you some tips, tools, and strategies and how to take the journey of your life and make the best out of it, because our goal is always to make sure that you are the best version of yourself. And tonight, I have a special guest, my good buddy pal, my life coach, I should say, TC Valdez. Woo-hoo.
What's happening? What's happening, Troy?
We're glad to have you on the show tonight because we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about values and we're going to talk about fear. All right. And TC is going to give us all the tips and tools tonight. Right. We're going to let him take charge of all of this. I'm just going to sit back and listen and just enjoy the ride and get my life coaching for the week done.
Well, I'll do the best that I can. This is coming straight off the top. So
that's
first and foremost, I want to thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Hey, anytime, TC. Like I said, you're like a consistent one. We need to do this at least once a month. I know we were doing our series on our what was it? Vision boards. That's what we were doing. Yeah. Dream boards and everything. But,
vision boards.
Yeah, and we'll have to touch base with that and catch up with the people that were working on their own boards as well. But before we start, I do have a sponsor of the show tonight. I do want to give a shout out to Sideways Sounds Engineering Studios in Denver, Colorado. My good buddy Pierre Carrillo is the man with the plan. And so he has been our great sponsor of the show. He's the one that allows it to come live to you with the free tips, tools, and strategies every Tuesday night at 6:30. He's based in Denver, Colorado. If you're looking for a recording studio for podcasts, whether it's your musical artist, whatever it is in the music industry or video, audio work, Pierre Carrillo is your man. You can contact him at Sideways Sounds at Instagram, Sideways Sounds on Facebook, or you can check out his website at sidewayssounds.com. He's worked with local artists as well as some very high prestigious artists as well. And the one thing I love about Sideways Sounds and Pierre is that when you work with him, he treats your work like it's his very own. So that speaks truly and deeply about his passion of the work that he does. And his equipment is high-tech equipment. So hit him up if you're looking for some type of audio work to be done, voiceovers, whatever it is. Pierre is your man. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about values and fears. And I'm going to probably go on a tangent, TC, so you're going to have to keep me in check, because when it comes to talking about values, I have a different perspective about values than what I did years ago. So I'll share that. And then we're going to talk about fear. Fear, I always say fear stands for false expectations appearing real, because, you know, there's so much behind fear, and we'll dive into that in the second portion of the show tonight. But what I want to do is, first off, before we begin any talking about that, TC, what is new in your life?
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that, because I've taken on a new challenge in my life. So I've recently gotten into photography, and I love photography. I love taking pictures. I love making photographs and all the whole nine. Well, so I took it a step further, and I am designing my own website.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you that has been a learning curve. Right before this, in fact, I was on there still messing around with sizing pictures and redirecting pages and stuff like that. So that's the newest part of my life right now.
And one thing I can say is I was creeping on your Facebook page and I saw your link to your website. And let me tell you, folks, this man right here that's on the show tonight, he is a great photographer. Speaking from one photographer to another, he's got the keen eye when it comes behind the lens on the camera. He knows how to look at it, and especially with the editing and everything. But yeah, so your product, I was checking it out. You've got from portraits to landscape to other things to, I mean, you've tapped into that, and that's a great skill. So yes, it looks phenomenal. And I know when it comes to websites, they're overwhelming. Trust me, I've been redoing mine. I'm in the process of actually redoing my coaching website as well. So, you know, it's a work in progress, but I just work on it 1% at a time.
That's it. Thank you. And I appreciate it on the photographs. I'm having fun with it. And I'll tell you what, YouTube has been my best friend with any type of tutorial, man.
Well, think about that. When we were in school, we didn't have YouTube to figure out how to figure out things.
I know. We had to pay people. What's up with that?
And you were taking a chance when you were paying people to see if they can even do it right for you correctly. That's the other thing.
And hopefully a lot of the future.
Yeah, there's a lot of tutorials out there. Let me tell you, and in my live coaching business, that's where I tune to. I watch a lot of coaching sessions just to keep keen on best practices, right? Best practices. And what I find is I'm so glad to hear the resonating consistency across is that, like, when you work with me, all of the development of the plan is all custom made, right? And it's what Tony Robbins talks about, the immersion coaching is, we start off with the initial part of it to find out a little bit about what you're working on, what is the goal, what is something you're tackling and everything. And then from there on out, it's custom based on you. I don't do a one fit program. I do have courses that are just very general and basic that you can take that are like 5 days, 7 days, just something to get from there. But if you really want to dive into the essence of the work, that's a whole different story. And that whole program is based on you because it's based about, and it's funny because today we talked about processes. All right. It's about learning and embracing the process, because don't worry about the product. The product will come, but you have to focus on your process. And I think that's where everyone gets so caught up. And we've talked about this. It gets so caught up about what's my product going to look like versus you've got to evaluate the process and where you're going with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
You got to change your focus.
Yeah, exactly. And that, and you have to embrace the process. You have to fall. I love it. You have to fall in love with the process. Right? James Clear talks about that in the Atomic Habits.
There is no other thing you can do other than the process, because you can't make the final product in the now. You can't make it. The only thing you can do right now is process.
That's a true story. That's a true story. You have to process. All right. So thinking of processing, let's get into some processing about values. So let me ask you the first question, TC. What do you consider to be your top 2 values right now in this moment?
Honesty and courage.
Okay. So why do you feel that honesty and courage are your top 2 values?
Because you have to have the courage to do anything. Here's the deal about it. I believe, and this kind of goes out with the fear part, but courage. You have to be able not to let any kind of thoughts get in front of your goal, in your mission, your process. Just do it. Whether you succeed or not is irrelevant. You just have to do it. And maybe almost retrain what you're doing. For example, tonight, right now, okay? Usually talking in front of people, some people are afraid of that because they're always thinking about, well, what does the other person think? Are they going to think I'm dumb? Are they not going to get it? Are they going to laugh at me? But then you got to think about this. What is your mission in talking in front of people? For example, tonight, my mission is just to get out my information. There will be people who don't like it. There'll be people who think I'm dumb. There'll be people who love it. That's not up to me. And that's not my goal. My mission is just to get it out. So all I have to do is have the courage to get it out.
Exactly. And you point out something. So what I hear you is that when you look at the value, it's something that you live by. It's something that you live in the moment now. This is something that we can experience and saying, based on what you shared with your values are, honesty and courage, that you live those. So when we interact with you one-on-one, when we come in contact with you, that's the value that we're going to get out of you, is that honesty and courage.
Yes. And another thing that, watch this one. Some people, I believe, are afraid to be honest because, again, they're worried about, well, I don't want to upset the other person. I don't want to make them mad or make them sad. It's not up to you to determine what their emotion is going to be.
Exactly. And I think that goes back to us sharing with you before we got to connected for tonight. I was sharing last week, last week's show was talking about what's something that you worry on your worry list, right? What is one thing? And I had zero people jump in. I had viewers, people were popping in. So they were hearing the message and I was challenging them. I was like, just share one thing that was on your worry list and let's tackle it out, right? And I started to think about what you just said there. They were worried about putting their worry out there with judgment. And I said, I'm not here to judge. Well, I'm not going to make a judgment. I mean, you can think it. I never think of someone's worry as something silly because that's something that they're continuously thinking over and over and over. And you already know that when you think that thought, you're predicting your future is just through your thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. You're creating it. One thing that helped me kill worry was I used to worry about other people's opinions until I tried to pay my bills with them.
That's so true. That is a good statement on that. It is. Were you able to pay your bills?
With mine, not theirs, not theirs, not theirs.
Exactly.
And that goes back to the original deal, your values. And a lot of people don't like to share their values because, again, a lot of people don't like to share, period, I believe. Now, not that I'm coming off of any kind of expert, but I believe it's a fear of what they think. Who cares? Whether you share it or not, they're going to think what they're going to think anyway.
And it was funny because, when we think about values, I remember participating in so many different activities, right? So many activities where we had to take a list of values. And like I said, I've started reading this book called Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Great book. I encourage you to put that on your list to read. And those who are watching, that's a book that you need to read. And so his very first chapter talks about the values. And so there was an aha moment when I was reading it. And it made me think about my values. And so we had an activity where we had to take 10 to 15 values and circle which one's which one do we hold, what we consider to be our values. Okay. And then we had to narrow it down to the top 5. And then we had to narrow it down to the top 3. And it's when you start narrowing it down to the very finite of those smaller, if I said, okay, let's look at our values, list 5. Now I want you to take the top 3. And now I want you to come up the top 1. What is your number 1 value? People struggle because where I think the struggle comes, and Jay Shetty talks about this, is when it talks about that value, it really goes and says, if I say that love is my value, or if I say that learn is my value, do I live that every single day? Now, it's not going to be the same value probably a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, because those are going to shift and change. But the question you have to ask yourself is, are you living it right now?
That's true. That's true. And I think too, what a lot of people make sure my true one, if you're going to say that, would be honesty, because that's where any of my decisions are based out of. I have to be honest with myself of what do I really want in this situation? What am I hoping to gain in this situation? Who am I, am I honest? Am I going to be okay with any result? So honesty would be one of my values that I would say that's the top one. Now, the thing about values is don't make your values based on somebody else's values. It's okay to have different ones. You have to make sure your value, like you said, living every day. Can you live this one? You can't live somebody else's value, just like you can't live their life.
And it goes into that because in any relationship, when you're connecting and communicating with people, when you're trying to really connect with that person and people around you, it's not only it's in your home life, it's in your friendship circle, it's in your relationship, it's in your work relationships, all of that. Too many times people try to push their value on you. And I've seen that many times. I've experienced that where people have tried to push their value on me and say, well, you got to live like this. This is how you should. And when I say, well, when they ask, what are your values? I'll tell you, my top 4 values are live, laugh, love, and learn. Those are the 4 L's. I always live by that: live, laugh, love, and learn. And when you look at that, they include anything and everything is what I tell myself, right? Because those are my values. That I'm always loving everyone. I have to. It's just something I do every single day. I learn as much as I possibly can. Then I live in the moment. I live for this day because, hell, I could get off the show with you and I could flop over dead and I'm done, right? So live, laugh, love, and learn. And then that learning and laugh is just the thing. I always say one goal every day that I have, and I always say this in my gratitude journal, every goal that I have every single day is to make one person laugh.
Even if it's you.
Even if it's myself, I made someone laugh, right? Because that's just that whole thing. And so the thing is, like you said, people try to push a value on you because they want you to be like them in a way. Or if you're going to hang out with me and you're going to want to be in that circle, you have to have that value.
I like what you're saying there with people try to push their values on you. I find 2 experiences when it comes to values like that. One is they try to push theirs on you, which is a control thing. I want you to think the way I do. 2 is when you disagree or you have a different value, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the and that people, I think, don't know how to disagree.
Yeah.
They don't know how to say, "Hey, we're different," and I believe this way, you believe that way. I always like to say this: if there were two people standing next to each other who agreed 100% on everything, one of them is useless.
And that's true. That's a
You
great
know,
way to say it.
so I don't get upset when they tell me I don't argue with them. I'm like, okay, in your reality, you're right, and then they take that offensive. It's people are funny. I love it.
And that's the thing about it, because then, like there's tactics, there's tools, there's way people tell you that when you notice that the argument's coming, like I said, I've always used this phrase is, you know what, in your world, you're correct. Because sometimes you have to say that, because the argument is going to go and you're going to get into that heated discussion to where it's going to be becoming that intense argument. Like you said, is that someone is going to push their value or their belief. All right. That beliefs fill that value, that this is the way it is. And you have to really, there's times that sometimes you just have to learn how the argument works. It's like, you know what, you're correct. And it just kind of ends that way. And then they might continue to go on, but you're just like, you know what, you're correct. You're right. You're right. Because
go ahead.
The thing is because I live my values. So you're not going to change it. And I've already shared it with you. I'm just asking you to be an open-minded person. Just listen. But when you get to that point, I'm just, all right, just okay. You're correct in your own world.
Yeah, and I don't even mind somebody pushing their values, no matter how crazy it is. I don't mind that. What makes me laugh is when they say, okay, now you have to agree with me. No, I don't have to. I just have to agree with me, but I'll listen to you. I'll give you. Kind of goes back to that saying about what speech should be protected, and that's hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's their right. They can say whatever they want. Let them say what they want. Let them push theirs. But once they cross over to the line and start judging your values, that's where it gets a little gray and a little iffy there. And as long as you are honest with yourself and you are solid with yourself and your values, nothing's going to rock you. So you're like, yeah, hey, say it. You entertain it until you don't want to anymore. I've done that at work many times. Somebody will come in and they'll have some off the wall stuff. I'm like, all right. In about 15 minutes, I'm like, all right, bro, I can't hang no more. You got to go. I can't do this. It was fun at first, but now I'm bored.
Because you're going to sit there and rehash it over and over and over. I mean, like you said, and it goes in and everyone functions differently. That's why, like I said, we're all unique in our own way. We have our DNA is structured differently. Our fingerprints are all different. So and I've learned so much from other people when I hear their values. Like I said, I love that openness and just saying, okay, and it also allows me to recognize and to realize how this person functions. And it's not my goal to change that person. The church, like we always know, change comes from within. It's an internal thing that starts to affect the external of us. But I'm not here to say I need to push. You need to have the same value as I do. You value something different. I value this, and I don't judge your value. I don't criticize it. I don't question it, because that's your value, not mine.
And I agree 100%. And one way I like to start off any conversation, or if we get into a discussion real deep about even opinions or whatever, I always tell them this: hey, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to give you something to think about. Whether you do or don't, it's up to you.
Exactly.
And I'll do
one goes silent, which is a key strategy I use. All right, is I go silent, and people, when I don't respond, it's not that I'm doing it to kind of like get back at your image. I'm processing. You have to understand that I'm listening, I'm processing, because what I want to speak, I want it to be constructive. I want it to be understanding. I want it to be valid and valuable in a way, because I'm going to share with you some insight that I had. But there's times that you just like, I have really nothing to say. I mean, this is your opinion. This is your point of view. All right. It's your vantage point. I don't see it that way. And I'm not saying that mine is better than yours or yours is better than mine. I just have nothing to respond.
You know, that's interesting that you say that, because I find it quite interesting when I make a statement or I give my opinion, I'll just do that. And a lot of people, they want justification on why you think that way. They want an explanation. They want why do you do that? And it's a control thing because they want information. They want to be able to justify why you, and I don't owe an explanation to anybody. I'll say it, and there it is. Oh my God, you're so jacked up. And they're like, now tell me why you think that way. No, I don't have to. And a lot of people, when you don't, they they put in their own rationalization, their own explanation for it. And if they can't, then they label you hard to deal with.
Oh, yes. Yes, it's just like the text messages you get. You put the emotion into the text message. It could be a simple, short statement, but we overthink it. We overanalyze it. We bring something that's not even there. As Brené Brown would say, we're creating this story in our mind that doesn't even match up to what that whole meaning there, because it's all about context.
Yeah, or context and an explanation that wasn't given that doesn't need one. And a lot of people want that control, and they want a reason. Why did they say that? Well, this is why. And they make up their own. And I feel bad for them, because then they start forecasting and forget it.
Forecasting, because that weather's going to change. That weather's going to change.
That emotional weather. That
emotional weather. I mean, in Colorado is a perfect example of it. Colorado's weather is just like an emotional wreck. It's like, oh, where's Colorado feeling right now, right? Someone got mad. Now we're in a depressed mode because we're getting rain. Oh, now we're in a happy mode, so we're going to get some sunshine. I mean, that's a great way to put it there. It is that emotional weather forecast. And so thinking about our values, and we were looking at fear. Let's talk about fear.
Fear does not exist in this dojo. I'll tell you why, though. I'll tell you why. Because when you really think about it, all fear is misplaced control. Because let's talk about that. Whenever you fear something, you don't know. That's usually I'd change jobs, or why don't you change job? I don't know what's out there. Or why don't you move? I don't know what's over there. Why don't you do this? I don't know what's going to happen. They don't know, and they don't do it because they don't have the control of what's going to happen. If they knew what was going to happen, they wouldn't have any fear.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? So when they say I'm scared, it's just misplaced control. When they turn around and put the focus on, instead of putting the focus on, I don't know what's going to happen, put the focus on, it doesn't matter what happened, I'm going to be okay anyway. I'll just make the next decision and go with that, and be strong within yourself, because that's all you can control. You're right. You don't know what's going to happen, but that's okay. And whenever you put the control back into yourself, there is no fear.
And when I think about fear, I think about, if you were to ask me what I'm fearful of, there's times that I say I really don't have much fear. But when you do a process, like an activity, where you keep asking yourself that same consistent question is, what am I afraid of? And then you keep going, what am I afraid of? You come out with something. Oh, maybe it might be disappointing, not getting the best grades or the tests or passing whatever it is. And then you say, well, what am I afraid of? You get to the root cause. Sometimes it could lead to even, it's like a tree growing. Trees only get stronger through the roots and through their branches and everything because of the wind. If there's no wind, the tree's going to flop, because the tree has to build to withstand the elements, right, to strengthen itself. That's like you just said, what does a tree do when there's a storm? What does a tree do? It bends. It goes with the wind. It doesn't resist against it. It goes with the wind, but that's what creates that strength. It develops it. And if that tree's not...
It develops it.
Exactly. And if there's no wind out there, the tree is not going to get, it's not going to get strong. It's going to become weak.
Going on that. I like that. So I think a lot of, when people say I'm fearful of any project or any thing that they're doing, they're not fearful of not being able to do it. They're fearful of not being able to do it on the first try.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you don't do it on the first try, that's just part of the process. And then, so do it again. It's no big deal. So
Fear of failure.
What's that?
Fear of failure.
Right. But, and if I told you that there is no failure, what wouldn't you try? And I'm telling you right now, there is no failure, because if you go looking into any experience that you have in any attempt of any project, by the time you attempt it, and then you get to either you did it or you didn't, you still have information. So you gained something. So you didn't fail. So as long as you look at, that goes back to learning, what you were talking about. If you go back to any experience that you have and you look at it, all I'm going to do is learn something. Even what doesn't work, I'm successful.
Exactly.
So there is no failure. So
that leads me to, go ahead.
If you can, now we've just eliminated tonight, we've eliminated fear and we've eliminated failure. So what's stopping you?
Exactly. And the thing is, people always say, I've also heard this, what are your thoughts when someone says, well, I'm fearful of missing the opportunity? Does that fall into the line what we're talking about? Or is that removing that idea of the failure because they're still doing it? Because people will be afraid of, they have the phobias. They're fearful of snakes. They're fearful of roller coasters. They're fearful of all these things that somewhere that, like you said, their experience led to this that they're not recognizing. And our brain, our mind holds on to so much that we're not aware of it. And somewhere the seed in our subconscious has been watered so many times with this potential idea. But then I've heard also people say, if you ask them what they're fearful of, they're saying, I'm fear of missing the opportunity.
So fear of missing out?
Fear of missing out.
FOMO. Oh, that's a horrible thing to have. That's a horrible thing to have. Because now, when you're focused on fear of missing out, you're not focused in the moment. You're always over there, or you're over there. What's happening over here? What's happening over there? You're doing yourself a disservice because all you have is the moment. So all you should concentrate on anytime is right now. So it's a horrible disservice to yourself if you catch a bad case of FOMO. I know a guy at work that has that.
Yeah,
he calls on his day off. Hey, is everything all right? Is everything going good?
And it's crazy because people live by that. People are so afraid that if I don't do this, or I don't go here, or I don't participate in this, they make this choice, right? We only have one choice each time. When it comes to a decision thing, we have one choice. And so I can sit there and say, nah, I don't want to do it. But then we fall into that, like, well, then I'm going to miss out. What's going to happen? But then we have, the fear guides us in saying, well, I don't want to do that because of this, because I'm fearful of this, but what am I going to miss out? It's like you said, it's a vicious circle. It's a disservice to yourself because you're not recognizing it, or you're not opening it up to saying, well, hell, maybe I should just get out of my comfort zone and just take the leap and see. But I got that moment. I've got right now. I could be fearful about a job interview down the road. I could be fearful about an opportunity that I'm planning on taking. And I can sit there and stew on it for right now. One, it may not even turn out the way I thought it was going to be.
It 9 out of 10 times it never does. It never does. And again, look what you're actually doing when you do that. You're right. You'll have many pros on why to do something and many cons on why to do something. And you sit there and you're contemplating both, and you're losing the time right now to do either one. So not making a decision is even worse than making the wrong one.
Because you're going to gain something off a wrong decision. I always believe that. You make a choice, like you said, you're getting results. You're getting feedback. So it's okay. Remove the word failure.
Look at Thomas Edison. They asked him, hey, Thomas, have you found what works? Nope, but I found 10,000 things that haven't.
Well, it's just like Henry Ford when he was developing the V8. He said the same thing to his team. He was like, let's look at this. He knew what he saw. And it was funny because today, Cody was just telling me downstairs because he got his running medal, his walking medal that he just earned. And he was telling me there was a little card in there, and it says, in order to predict the future, you create it. And he goes, that's a pretty good one. I said, I've heard that I don't know how many times in all the books that I read, because then it goes to, like you said, Thomas Edison and Ford. The idea is they visualize it. They saw this thing that they wanted. They saw the end product in a way, but they didn't stop and say, oh, we failed at it. You know, they continue. He says, go back and try it. Keep doing it, because there's a way it's going to come. I know it's going to happen, which leads to, did you know why it's called WD-40?
Why?
Because it took them 40 formulas to finally get it right. That's why they named it WD-40.
Is that true?
It's true.
I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Look that up.
You know, that's it though. So if you know that there's nothing you can't do, or there's no failure, why not do everything?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you a good example of that. So this project that I'm doing now, the website. All right. Well, me and my buddy at work, we were talking about it. And I said, hey, it's time to put up or shut up. Just do it. And so he was like, yeah, the difference is doing it. So I did it. Now, was my website the first time out what it is now? Absolutely not. And will it be the same when a half hour later from now? No, I'm constantly changing it. I'm constantly doing it, but I'm doing it. That's the thing. I'm in the process. And oh my gosh, I killed myself trying to align these. I finally did tonight. I learned how to align them and do that. So I'm like, all right, now I just got to make the links. I didn't stop because I didn't get my result on the first try. Mm-hmm. I said to myself, I'm taking this on as a challenge, and I know I can do it because I've seen other people can do it. And if they can do it, I can. Boom. So now I'm running with it, and I have been more successful than I was when I first tried. Now, in the process of it, I've had some setbacks. Failures? None. Setbacks? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I only fail when I stop.
And you bring up a good point, because I can remember back when I started with my website. And I'm one of those that everyone who knows me well enough that when I tell them about an idea that I have, what I'm going to go out and work with, that they'll say, the first thing they do, everyone does this. Even Cody tells me this. He says, don't overthink it, because I will overthink it. You know, and I have this vision. I've seen someone do something. I'm like, okay, I like how they did it. I don't want to be exactly like them, but I want some components for it. I need to figure out how to do that. You go through that frustration. You know, you're figuring it out. And like I said, there's two paths you're going to take. You're either going to go the high road, and you're going to grow and build those skills like you were talking about in your website. You said you had some setbacks, but you figured it out, some roadblocks, or you're going to go down the path here. He's like, I just give up. It's not working the way I want it to work, which leads into that idea and fear. I remember when I created my website, I remember when I used to do blogging, and I'd type up this huge old article, just this whole blog that I had. And I would sit there and I would put and say, okay, I'm just going to let it stew on it. I'm going to this is how I functioned. I would type it up. It's ready to go. I made it very simple with one picture. I had my hyperlinks. I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then I sit there and it's like, okay, I'll publish it tomorrow. And then I come back and read it over again. And then I'd be like, and I fell into that category. I was like, ooh, kind of fearful what people will think when I publish this. You know, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? Are people going to read it? Does it make sense? Am I going off on a tangent, or am I aligned to a topic or subject? And it'd be days before I even click that button and publish it. And then what happens when I publish it? I started getting feedback. People were like, hey, this is great. You should do more of this. I mean, I don't think I didn't have any negative comments. There were comments of constructive feedback that came in that I took in consideration and said, okay, this is how I'm going to better myself. But you know, it's clicking that button. There's even that small little thing of, oh, I did all this work on my website, this project. I'm afraid to talk it because what are they going to say? Well, it's like they always tell us, what's the worst? They're going to say no.
Yeah. And if you don't ask, the answer is a guaranteed no.
Yep. The two strongest answers, I always say the two strongest words, yes and no.
Yeah. And they all come from you. They come from you. Are you going to do it? Yes. Or are you going to do it? No. Done. Mm-hmm. You know, and it was interesting because I used to catch myself in exactly what you're doing, coming up with a final plan to do it. Oh, I want this. Oh, wait, but I want to change it. So then in the middle of it, oh, wait, I want to change it. But I learned this. You can't change something that's not there. So I can't change my website if I don't have a website. I can't change a component if I don't have the component there to change.
Exactly.
So I do it, I load it up, and it is what it is. And then if I go back and decide, oh, well, now I'll change it. Because I've changed this thing 114 times since I started. I don't care. I'll still change it 100,000 times after. I don't care. But in order to change it, I have to do it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I love about it.
Go ahead.
I love about it is that you're consistent. You do it every day. Every day there's something that you're looking in, you're visiting it. You're not doing it one day and then 10 days later you're like, oh, I go back in there, because people will function like that. They will start it in one day. They want to get it perfected immediately. They want it to, when they click that publish button, they want it to be flawless because they think that they're going to get, and then they get disappointed, right? Excuse me. They get choking on my own spit. They get disappointed because no one's viewed their website. And so they feel, again, that fear that, oh, I didn't do it well because no one looked at it.
That's talking about completing it on the first try.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. You think about this. Was there anybody on this earth who did anything perfectly their first try? And the answer is no. So who the hell are you?
A person trying to prove that the magic overnight success happens, right? Too many times I've heard that, especially in the sports world. They think that I'm going to become the superhero athlete, the number one quarterback, or the best goalie, whatever it is, the best shooter in NBA, because overnight. Well, did you even look at what they did prior to that?
Well, and what I always like to think of too is, let's just say you accomplished on the very first try every time. Is there any value to that? Will you be as excited the 100th time that you did something the first time out than you did the first time? The more you do it, the less it becomes valuable to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's only valuable. Wait, any success is only as valuable as its, I don't want to say failure, but it's non-attempt, non-completion, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So the more times you fail, the more times that you are successful, you feel better. So in that case, you're actually welcoming issues.
And it's those smallest gains. It's those smallest things that lead us to that. You know, it goes, I'm reading the other book because I told you I'm doing 2 books a month. And so right now it's Think Like a Monk, and then it's also the Atomic Habits. And then the Atomic Habits talks about that 1%. It's the compound interest. It's the compound effect that, you know, every night I have a routine where, like I said, I read in my books. I read a chapter out of my 2 books. I'll go and I do things like here. I'm working on my package coursings, you know, for my life coaching. I do all of that stuff. And I'm always saying, at least I'm doing one thing. Now in my head, it says I need to complete this, right? It's got to be all of this. But I know that I classify success as when I've completed this. I'm one step closer, right? It's that one little step to my thousand step journey.
The beautiful part is, you don't have to do everything tonight. You don't have to. All you have to do is something.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because the more little somethings that you do, the better you're going to feel anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so even God took 6 days to create the world.
And then he took a day to rest.
Yeah. So who are you? Again, who are you? Why do
exactly.
You do that?
And see, and that's how I was. I was a procrastinator at one time. There's tendencies that I do fall into that at times, is, you know, because it's the overthinking that kicks in. So I'll fall into the procrastination life and then the thinking. But what I've learned out of my experience in the work that I do is that I know what my ultimate goal, and we've talked about this. I know what my ultimate goal is, but what I do is, okay, this is where I'm at. Now I break it down. What do I need to do each and every day, all right, to build upon it to reach that?
That's it. All you have to do is take the next step. That's all.
And the thing is, maybe I need to just sit down and read for a bit. That's the next step. You're
That's a
doing
step.
something that's leading
Yeah.
toward that ultimate goal, right? That ultimate goal.
And I think that falls into the whole idea of the immediate gratification thing. That's a whole nother ball game. But because we don't get it right away in 5 minutes, then I can't do it. I got to move on to something else. No. Keep the goal in mind, but don't focus on it. If you focus on each process, break that down to each step, all you have to do is take one step at a time. Can you do that? Absolutely. Everybody can take one step. Now, that's all you have to do. Take one step. Because really, let's think about it. You can't do more than one thing right now anyway. You can't. Even those people who say, oh, I multitask. No. You do a lot of short things and you change your focus very quickly. I'll give you that. But each of those focuses is one thing. So all you have to do is one thing. That's it. Now, if you could do 2 or 3 things, cool. But don't kill yourself if you don't.
See, I've learned a time block. That's how I do, like in at work, I time block. Like today I broke down and said, okay, I need to work on this. I put it on my schedule. So this morning I got to work. I said, okay, I'm going to just break it down. This is what from this time, going from there. Because I always felt like, oh yeah, I'm a multitasker. You know, I felt great about that. But then what I've learned, me personally, through my experience, is that it was doing more damage to me or disservice than I thought it was. Because I was with my short span, I will be doing, and this happens at home. Like I will literally start reading a book, and then something distract, like, oh, I got to go read that other book. And I find myself, all right, they were switching to the other one. And then I'm like, okay, then I'm like, oh, I want to fit back. And I had to tell myself, I was like, no, we're going to block it out. So like right now I'm looking at the clock. Okay, I'm going to read for 15 minutes out of this book. Then I'm going to take a break. And then I'm going to come in and read this other portion of the other book that I'm looking, and I'm going to sit there, you know, because I try to multitask.
I got one for you that helped me. This saying, I love it. Don't mistake motion for progress.
Mm-hmm. Let's give you some snaps on that. That is true. And I've heard that before. I've heard that, and I've heard that from you, and I've heard that from other people is don't.
Just because you're moving doesn't mean you're going somewhere.
Exactly. It's a rocking chair. If I want to get movement, I can just sit in my rocking chair and rock back and forth. Because my mom used to always say that's about worrying. She said that's what it was. When you worry, it just gives you something to think about and something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere, right? Which is always
absolutely. Yeah. So concentrate. Now, if you have a lot of things that you want to do, cool, write them all out. But work one at a time until you can't. Then you move to the next one. But don't get stuck in the fact that you didn't get as far as you wanted to. Now, here's where we suffer. We fight with what we want versus what is. And that's where the suffering comes in. So all we could do is what we can do. I want to do this. Cool. I can only do this. That's where you have to accept that. Then move on to the next one. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't cause yourself any unnecessary suffering. We do that all the time.
So we have a comment there. Jason, hello, Jason. What's up, my friend? It's good to see you. Jason throws a loop out here. All right. He says, but you have a job that thinks you need to do more.
Okay. So here's the deal. That's what they think. This is just my opinion. You do the best that you can, because no matter what you do, that's your ability. Now, don't kill yourself trying to oppress somebody else. If they're not satisfied with what you do, they'll let you go.
I believe in this. This is what I tell myself, and this is what I've shared. I'm pretty forward. In my career, there is a lot of multitasking that we have to do. But I always turn around and say, if you want me to do this well, you want me to do this with fidelity and strength, I will do the other things, but this is what I need to do well first. Let me work on this first, and then I'll get to that, right? And I always tell myself through my experiences, when I'm open and forward and a straight shooter in that way, I say, I'm not saying that I'm not going to do it, but if you want me to do it well, you want me to give you 100% to make sure that this is done right and well, here's how I'm going to break it out. Like I said, and I have tasks. I will literally, if I have 3 or 4 things that someone throws at me and says, I need you to do A, B, and C, I will like, okay. They've given me the task A, B, and C. But then what I do is I have the decision to look and say, okay, what is my value on A? What's the value of B? And what's the value of C? I look and say, which one may take me the longest work that I'm going to have to really put value? But which one can I do with fidelity and accomplish well? I'm going to tackle that one first so they can see, oh, you're getting things done. They didn't say you have to do it in this order. They just said, I need you to do these things. So I rate them out of what is a low priority that I'm going to work with fidelity to a high priority that means it's going to take me a little longer time. And that's so, like I said, I've learned the time blocking as I break it down and say, this I know I can accomplish really easily.
I like that. I like that. One thing that I try to live by is this one. I love this saying. You know me, I'm full of sayings. Is do your best, but don't kill yourself to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're killing yourself to prove, you're living to somebody else's expectations. And if you can't live up to it, be honest with yourself and say, no, I can't.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's I love that. I love that saying. If everyone has expectations, and it doesn't matter. It means your parents, your spouse, your kids, your coworkers, your job, the world. I mean, if you really think about it, everyone has an expectation for you, right? But the thing is, I always look and say, what are my expectations for myself? Because that's all I have control over.
Yeah, you'll never, ever, ever, I don't care who it is, you'll never live up to anybody's expectations. Never. You may do it to their satisfaction, but in their mind, they're probably thinking, oh, you probably could have done better. You'll never live up.
Oh.
And then we get into ourselves and we try to kill ourselves going, oh my God, I'm not worthy because I didn't live up to you. No, live up to your own stuff. That's what I'm saying. Do your best, but don't kill yourself to prove it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, too many times have I heard that is, it's like, what more do you want? My firstborn child? Do you want my blood? Because I put in and I did the work. And I've had some people that I've worked with and dealt with where they tell you, they give you the compliment, you did a great job. But I've also experienced where you've done and you come out feeling proud. You're on cloud 9. You are on top of the world. You've climbed that 14er and you've hit that summit and you're feeling great. And then they find it's like, well, I could have probably done that better, or you probably could have done this better. And it's like not going into the moment, which leads to that fear. Then you start those kind of comments lead you to your fear of like, that I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable, I'm not educated, I'm not what your expectation says.
So this is what I tell people like this: put your worth into your effort, not theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I know I did a good job and I'm proud of what I did, that's all that matters. And if they think a little less, cool, hold it. Never hold their opinion of your effort higher than your own. You'll lose every time.
Exactly.
You'll lose. As long as you are doing your best, what more can you do? Enjoy it. And if this wasn't my best, next time you'll get somebody else. Or what they'll usually do is they'll say, you're right. Or they may not admit it, but they'll pick you again. Mm-hmm. Because I believe this, because you lived up to you were proud of yourself. And when you're proud of yourself, you work harder. But if you're not proud of yourself, and if you don't like what you do, you're not going to put in the effort. So always live up to your opinion. That's it.
Jason says that he can do that. We were talking about breaking it down and analyzing which is the high priority versus the low priority. And then he says, that's what I'm doing right now. They sit behind the desk and have no clue. And that's a whole new universe, because I have always remembered one of the Roosevelts mentioned, he said that people who sit in the cheap seats of the arena with their brewski, their beer, they're going to have every way to tell you how you could have done it better.
They're couch quarterbacks.
Exactly. However, he says the people you need to listen to, the people you need to really pay attention to are the ones that are inside the arena. They're on the ground zero with you doing the same battle.
Absolutely.
Doing the same battle. And something just popped up. I'm reading this book called, I've read it, and now I'm doing the scrolls every day. It's The World's Greatest Salesman. I don't know if you've ever read that. You might want to read that. It's a really good book, right? And every 30 days you read one of the scrolls. Like last month was reading is I will greet this day with love in my heart, which is, like I said, one of my values. Love is one of my values. This month it is I will persist until I succeed. And there's the analogy that talks about the matadors who work with the bulls, right? When the bulls, when they go into training, this was interesting. I didn't know this. And it leads to what you were talking about. When they go in, they are rated based on how many times they're lanced, how many times they're cut to their strength, because that's going to be able to determine when they go out into the arena, are they going to be able to be capable of standing the endurance and showing up and doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? That's like us. It's like you were saying, is that you have to go in. You got to know your value of what you're worth, because again, that only comes from you. If you, like you said, if you place your worth on someone person's value, well, and it's just
you're done already. You shot yourself in the foot. Because I always like to think about this: no matter where you go, there you are. So you might as well contain all the stuff that you need. Exactly.
He says that he's the maintenance director for a nursing home, and everything takes 5 minutes.
Of course it does. Now I always go back to this. Then why did you hire me?
Right. Exactly. Have you heard the saying, and this is where it goes in, because it talks about what we're talking about tonight. It's about your value as an individual. Now, you being in photography, I've seen your work, which is phenomenal, right? I need to get my camera updated with the new firmware, and my card reader's not working well, so I haven't been able to update my firmware. You don't even want to know where my firmware is right now. It's like at 1.0, and it's supposed to be at 14. So that's how bad it is. So when I look at your work, and I can see the value you put in your work, because I can see the product and what you're coming up, right? You got that passion for it. There's no rush for you to get it done. You are going to do that. What I always find is that even with my life coaching, right? I know my value and I know what I'm worth, just like you as a photographer, right? I know it. And when you tell people, when they come to you and they're like, hey, I want to hire you as a photographer, or hey, I want to hire you as a life coach, when you talk price with them, right? I love this. When you talk price, then that's where all the excuses come. But I always say this.
Go ahead.
I always say this. I'm like, I totally understand where you're coming from. I get where it's coming from. But I'm going to tell you this. You're going to get results. You're going to get a great product in photography. This is what it is, because I know my value and passion of the work that I do. That's like you're just telling Jason, is if everything takes 5 minutes, then why did you hire me? Because I'm going to tell you, with me, it's not going to take 5 minutes. We're going to put a lot of work. You're going to get the results off of it. You're going to get a great pieces of art, of photography work, right? Because it's that value part that we were looking at and talking about earlier. You are worth. And so it goes to this one thing is, this gentleman, they were working at the shipyard, and they couldn't get the rudder to work. So they called a mechanic. Apparently he was supposed to be the best one. He comes in, he assesses it. He takes out a hammer and hits it. The rudder starts working. He bills them. It was like over $200,000. So again, justification. Why is it costing so much? Right? Why are you charging me so much? And he gives them an itemized bill. He gives them and says $10 for the hammer, $190,000 to know where to hit it.
Yeah, that's it. I always tell people, when we discuss price and stuff, my price is based on my talent, not your budget.
Exactly.
Oh,
He says they are pulling me from the job that I'm working, because he says a lot of the stuff that takes 5 minutes, they're pulling him from the job that's going to take more time to go fix something that's going to take 5 minutes.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh, man. Hold on.
There you are. So the thing is, I get that.
I lost you. I'm not going to get you back.
I get that, Jason. And it's when you're working on a project that you have to put value and time into it, and then you come to find out that what they're asking you to do is going to take 5 minutes. That's going to be the challenge there. That's a hard part. I mean,
well,
how would you
here's the
approach
thing
that?
too. They called you for a reason. They could call anybody else, but they called you. So they know that you have certain knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they want you for a reason. Because I've had this happen to me too. They say, TC, I want you to take some pictures. Okay, it's going to be this much. Ooh, I don't know. So-and-so can do it cheaper. Then why did you call me?
No, I agree. I agree with that. I love it because I've had people.
Don't. And that's putting, if you feel strongly about your deal, hey, this is what I charge. And it's okay. I get it. You don't want to pay. I understand. Then don't. Nobody's forcing you. But if you want my work, if you want my skill set, this is what's going to cost you.
And
there's a reason.
When I work with people, that's when I try to tell them. You know, they ask me people are like, okay, we're just curious, right? And I was like, oh, curious, okay. They're like, so you do a life coach. You're a life coach. Tell us a little bit about it. So I shared. I said, my goal is, this is what I live by. It is my goal is helping other people to make a change in their life and rewrite their story. That's what it is. That's what I do. And they're like, oh, okay. And, and it includes like the mindset. I mean, it doesn't really matter what the topic is. I don't limit myself because I'm just helping others create the world that they deserve and rewrite it.
Dang, something happened to my volume. I can't hear you that well now.
Let me see.
Probably when I was messing. My boy was calling me and I was trying to get it out of the call.
Was he? Can you hear me now?
Barely.
Okay. I'll speak
I think
louder.
It's on my end. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. But that's
I'm going to have to cut this short in about 5 minutes because I got to go.
All right, that's good because we're almost done here because it's almost 7:30 because we usually do no more than an hour. But I wanted to end with this is that never settle for less than knowing of your worth. Like you being a photographer, you know your worth. Me being a life coach, I know my worth. I always tell people, if price is a thing, go ahead. You're going to get, I always say this, you're going to get the best quality drink, or you can go get the cheap drink and you're not going to get the quality because you're going to save yourself. You know what I always say? It's just that process. It's just that process.
That is. You're right. I mean, when they talk about pictures and stuff for the photography, how much are your memories worth?
Yeah, exactly. So Jason says he really appreciates us. Hey, Jason.
I hope we gave you something to chew on or something.
Hopefully we got you to think about something. My good man Ryan says, big facts, guys, great tips and advice. It's true. And Ryan's a barber. I know this. He was in the service, a Navy guy, and now he's doing some barber, and he does some great, amazing work. And I know he goes to the same things as based on his values and the fear that we were talking about, values and fear. He does the same thing because I'll give you a good trim. Well, I can go down the road and get it. Well, go ahead, then do it. Then why did you come talk to me? Because there's something about my value, but you're fearful about it because you don't want the best. Well, you know what? You're more than welcome because I know what my worth is.
Yep. All
right. We always end the show. What is one piece of advice you want people to take away tonight?
One piece of advice to take away tonight is be true to yourself and you'll never go wrong.
Be true to yourself and you'll never go wrong. That is coming from the man who honesty is his number one value.
I'm my number one fan.
Well, TC, thank you so much, buddy, for tonight. And we want to give
man.
We want to give a big shout out.
This is always fun. I always have a great time talking about this stuff.
We always do. We always have great times, like I said, and I'm going to get you on here more. We're going to do this more often. All right, more often. We want to give a big shout out to Pierre Carrillo of Sideways Sounds, our official sponsor tonight of the show, bringing you great things. He does amazing work down in Denver in his studio. Again, like we were talking about, his value in the work that he does.
Pierre too. He's a great guy.
He is. I went to school with him, so that's how I know him. So
There you
he
go,
does
there you
his
go.
passion for the work. Like I said, he treats it like it's his very own, which talks about the value, all right, and what he's worth and what he brings you. He's worked with many local artists as well as some top name artists. He's got a great studio in Denver, Colorado. Again, if you want to connect with him, it is at Sideways Sounds on Instagram, Sideways Sounds on Facebook, or you can go to his website at sidewayssounds.com.
Before we head out, I want to give a shout out to the two guys who put in chats, who participated tonight. Shout out to them two guys.
Yes, Jason and Ryan, shout outs to you guys. Thank you for giving us some leverage and some ideas to talk about and sharing it. Hey, TC and I are always here. You know how to connect with us on Facebook. Here, reach out to us, talk to us. Hey, we're here for you guys. We're the corner guys. We're going to come up with our own show. I already know it. I could feel it coming down the road. So, all right, TC, we'll have a great one. And thank you for jumping in on tonight. And we'll have you back here on the show again. Like I said, this is Troy from Mindset Coach. We come to you every Tuesday night at 6:30, bringing you tips, tools, and strategies on how to better your life, because our goal and purpose is always to help you rewrite your story and help you create the life that you deserve. With that said, I am out of here. TC is out of here. Everyone have a great one, and we will see you next time.
See ya.